a dad who's trying to have a relationship with their kids. You know how many kids need a relationship with their father?
What is your relationship with your children?
Oh, my God.
They all need their father, R. Kelly. Thank you, sir. Back in your cell now. I never wanted kids. But it was 2 days before my 30th birthday. I remember having a vivid dream when I was play fighting with a daughter in the dream. And I remember feeling like my soul was on fire. Like, you know, that alive feeling that you have when you're doing something that you feel like you was put on earth to do. And when I woke up, I knew it then that I wasn't the same person that went to sleep the night prior. And it was from that day until this day, and until I had my first kid, I knew that I was put on earth to be a father. And it was the most important thing to me ever since then. Now, I was lucky in the sense of I have a stepson, and I've been in his life since he was 2 or 3 years old. Incredible human being, wise beyond his years. He has a very unique outlook on the world and his place in society that is way, way, way advanced for his age. And I love him to death. And he also contributed to me wanting kids. Because I was just saying to myself, I know it's not likely, but I'm like, damn, if I can make another one of these, man, the kingdom would be good. And yeah, it's a mission right now. So that's something I want to get done. I will feel fulfilled having a child, because I believe that out of all the talents that I've been blessed with, I feel like being a dad would be the one that I would be best at and would take the most pride in. So, I mean, being a dad, man, what could be better than that as a man? Which makes me crazy upset when I discuss or I talk about something I'm very passionate about, and that's deadbeat daddies. I'm an African-American man. I seen them. Deadbeat daddies left and right. Kids growing up without dads. Ever since I was a kid. So it didn't bother me until I was, made that decision that I want to have children. But it really burns me up, man. Seeing kids grow up without a father, or dads, sperm donors not being involved in their kids' life. Take my stepson Sean, for instance, right? I just told you how impressive of a human being and how much, I love him. I can't imagine being a guy that doesn't want to be in his kid's life. And I never talk bad about his father to him, but damn, like, they live in the same county. You know what I mean? And it's sort of like, how the hell could you have an impressive son, an impressive child like that, but not want to be involved in their life? Like, it just boggles my mind. Before, it used to bother me to the point where it's like anger. Now it's just kind of like, you just shake your head and discuss kind of situation. It's like, damn, like, do you know what you're missing out on? No. There's no way possible that you can know what you're missing out on. Now, I get to enjoy the fruit of, that neglect, because I get to have my stepson all to myself for the most part, which is cool by me. And if it's like that for the rest of all time, then so be it. But it really does bother me that a man can have a child but not have a desire to be in their life. Unfortunately, it's a situation in this country, America, that is not a borderline crisis anymore. It's a straight up crisis, not borderline. It's a crisis now. If fatherlessness was a disease, if fatherlessness was a virus, it'd be time for the vaccine now. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 18.3 million children, that's 1 out of every 4, live without a biological, step, or adoptive father in the home. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, children from fatherless homes account for 63% of all youth suicides, 90% of all homeless and runaway youths, 85% of all children that exhibit behavioral disorders, 71% of all high school dropouts, 70% of juveniles in state-operated institutions, 75% of all adolescent patients in substance abuse centers, 75% of rapists motivated by displaced anger. And the situation is even more dire when considering the black community, where it's the worst. Out-of-wedlock births have gone from 25% in 1965 to 77% in 2015. Contrast that with white families only having an uptick of 5% to 25% in that same time span. During times of slavery, when it was illegal for blacks to get married, children were more likely to be raised by two parents then than they are now. Crazy. Given the challenges that are already at play economically, socially, health-wise, compounding that with an absent father or being raised in a single-parent home places youth at a higher risk at becoming unproductive members of society. And there's no way around that. Again, I don't understand. I understand some of the things that may cause fatherless homes, absent fathers, deadbeat dads, single-parent mothers, whatever you want to call it. I understand that there's some outside factors to it, but damn it, man. You just heard the statistics. It's like you are setting your child up for failure. Now, how do we get to this point? Two things come to mind that, are societal things that I think contributed to the fatherless epidemic. First, we had the war on poverty, starting in the 1960s, brought upon the welfare system, which gave a lot of wiggle room to women to essentially marry Uncle Sam. Women had the ability to fall back on government assistance if the father abandoned a child. Well, the consequence of that is some mothers took advantage of the system. A Los Angeles Times survey conducted in 1985 asked poor and non-poor women whether or not they would have a child to get additional benefits. The results were staggering, y'all. Non-poor women said no. 64% of poor women, however, said yes. That they will let somebody shoot their club up just for a check. 64%. I'll give you some time to let that sink in. 6 out of 10 women say, yeah, I'll take the check. We also have the problem of mass incarceration in the prison industrial complex. 2.7 million children are growing up in a U.S. household in which one or more parents are incarcerated. 2/3 of these parents are incarcerated for non-violent offenses, including a substantial portion who are incarcerated for drug law violations. 1 out of 9 black children has an incarcerated parent, compared to 1 in 28 Latino children and 1 in 57 white children. I had got to the point where I was reading some of these statistics and research for this show, and I was borderline in tears thinking about it. I reflected on my childhood, and I grew up in a projects called Marshall Street Projects, and there was a lot of kids in that complex. I'm talking like 40 kids, maybe outside at all at the same time. And we all rolled together for the most part. And really, I would probably say out of the 40 kids, maybe 10% of us had a dad in the house. And thinking back on it, you could kind of see it in our behavior. The mischievousness, the lack of respect for authority, the substance abuse, the gang activity. We was like a wolf pack. We was all in search of the father figure, but maybe that father figure was just in the streets. We didn't have the discipline in the household. We didn't have a mother that could handle the burden of being a single mom, having to work 2 jobs and still pay attention to her child every single day. Let them go outside and play. What you think is going to happen. And this is very sad. You'll have some people, especially hardcore feminists and, people who like to make the argument that you don't necessarily need a father in the house. I don't care what anybody says. As far as I'm concerned, growing up as a child in a home where you have two parents that share your DNA has to mean something. I get it. We living in 2021. We're seeing a lot of same gender parents, male, male, female, female parents. And I understand that. And I don't mean to take anything away from my strong, hard-working, still ambitious, single moms out there who are doing it all by themselves, playing both the role of mother and father. I don't mean to take anything away from y'all. But men and women are different. That's just biology. And while you can't have some women who have, quote unquote male tendencies in regards to their level of agreeableness and their level of sensitivity or how they discipline, and you may have some fathers who exhibit, feminine tendencies of being, super nurturing and things of that nature. I'm not discounting the roles is concerned, but to put that in perspective, having a dad around, your dad, that guy that has your DNA in him, is extremely important. And that's why it makes me upset why we don't have more men who accept that responsibility to be the dad. What do dads bring to the table that's so important that dad needs to be in the house? At least as far as I can tell, and it's in my opinion, dads or any two-parent household really brings another source of income, which drastically reduces financial burdens on mothers, right? You living in a better neighborhood because you can afford better rent or a mortgage payment. You're able to take your family on vacations where maybe a single mother who's working a job or two may not have the finances to take their child on vacation to experience other cultures and other places around the world. You got better nutrition. You're eating better. You're not going to the corner store every day for dinner, eating junk food and stuff like that. You can afford proper groceries. Dads often also represent a challenging figure psychologically. I was lucky to have my father in my house for the majority of my life. Whenever there was a question about, I got to make a decision whether I'm about to do something, I could go left or I could go right. And left might get me in trouble, but it's enticing me. And right is something that my father would approve of. In many instances, I chose right just because I didn't want to have to face the wrath of my father whenever I went back in the house or I made a decision about something that was going to get me in trouble, get me locked up, or something like that. So having that challenging figure in the house had a psychological effect on me, and I know kids who have fathers, the same with them. Moms often provide the simplest structure for success, while men who are often less structured than women provide more independence and tolerance for frustration. You got to learn to deal with the headaches. You got to learn how to deal with defeat. Those are talks that your father can have with you to teach you those lessons of how to deal with adversity. And yes, a mom can do the same as well. But usually mothers who are nurturing you in their body, since you were being conceived or whatever like that, they're going to provide you a structure that's going to get you from point A to point B with the greatest opportunity for success. Your father is going to present to you challenges going from A to B to where you might have to think on your feet. You might have to be a little bit more creative. You might have to deal with something that you didn't see coming. You're going to have to deal with some adversity. And a lot of times I've seen fathers, and my father too as well, where there was an easy path for obtainment for me or easy path to success in something. And my father would implement in adversity on purpose just to see how you respond. Well, what you going to do when this happens? It's like, well, damn, I didn't think about that, to be quite honest. Well, it could happen. Are you going to be ready for it? It's like, well, yeah, now that I know about it, let's start training for life. Things of that nature. So say, for example, your father teaching you how to fight. Like, yeah, you might be excited about playing in the pickup basketball game out in the park. But what you going to do when somebody, hard fouls you or something like that? And it's time to throw blows. You can't run home. But dad got you ready for that moment, though. Dads also provide a physical challenge as well. They're usually the bigger figure in the house physically for the majority of your childhood. And, there have been studies of children that also show that, play fighting with your kids is very, very important. You get to see the limits, right? How much you could play around, how much you could hit, how much you could body slam, how much you can smack before, that's too much pain. You're going too far. That is important when, as a child, you're going out into the world and now you have to play with other kids. Now you know how hard you could punch. Now you know how hard you could body slam and slap and kick in a playful manner before enough is enough. And now you causing harm to somebody or you causing somebody pain. So dads provide that too. Dad often provides child with discipline needed to integrate yourself into society as well. Dads will let you know the penalty for being a bad person, for lack of a better way of explaining it, right? So I always say that dads always hold up the mirror to society for you. So let's say, for instance, you had a son or a daughter, right? And they got a bad habit of lying or stealing or something like that. So mom might be in a role where she'll tell you that that's not behavior that you want to exhibit out in the real world. And yes, they can actually discipline you as well. But dad is going to be the one that's going to show you the consequences to that. And no, I'm not saying that, dad is going to be the one who's going to whip out his belt and then be giving the whoopings out and stuff like that. That's not what I'm saying. But take, for instance, say a son who is a liar or whatever like that. Dad is going to let you know. You're not going to have many friends out there if you're lying. Loyalty is important. Being trustworthy is important. Having the trust of your friends and being able to be relied upon is super important in regards to integrating yourself into society. And if you don't do so, you will be shunned out of society, or nobody will hire you for a job. Dads often give you that foreshadowing that, hey, your bad behavior is going to lead to some bad consequences, and you don't want to live like a bad person because people don't like to be around bad people. How about dads and their daughters? Dad provides a perfect template, if he does it the right way, of how a man is supposed to treat a woman. Not only in the sense of, respect for any woman, but also the love and affection that he shows to the mother in the house. Provides a great example for the daughter on how she should be treated by her potential mate. Also, dads, when they're in the house, there is a significant reduction in teen pregnancy. I mean, I'm even thinking about it. I can't really remember if I've known anybody, like a female who got pregnant that was a teenager, but the dad was in the house too. I really can't think of many scenarios where that happened. But I could think of almost every single teenage pregnancy that I've been around, the father wasn't around. So there's definitely some correlation there. Also, dads, how you treat your significant other, wife, girlfriend, also provides a template to the son, to the boy. This is how you treat a woman. This is what chivalry looks like. This is what respect looks like. This is what compromise look like. And then he can take those lessons and maybe be a potentially better mate for his potential wife or girlfriend or significant other. And when it comes to sons, being that I'm a man and I'm raising a young man, fathers provide boys with a template for identity. A lot of times when you're growing up in a fatherless home and you don't know how a man is supposed to act, you do what boys naturally do. You go and search for it. And a lot of times that takes you to the streets. That's why you see a lot of street dads out there. A lot of quote unquote OGs. You start running with the pack. You joining gangs. But you have structure within the gang. And that structure is what you was missing. That's what you had the appetite for. That's what you had that thirst for. And you're there in that situation because you didn't get it from your father. Once again, it's not to say that women cannot do this, but we got to stop fooling ourselves and thinking that men don't bring something unique to the table in regards to raising children. And lastly, at least in my opinion, what dads also provide is, at least with me, and maybe it's with you too, is whenever I did something as a child and I accomplished something, I got student of the month, I won a spelling bee, I hit my first home run in a little league game, I was really thinking about making my father proud. And that was cool because I knew my mother was going to be happy regardless, and she would show that through, her words and her affection, things of that nature. But to see the jubilation on your father's face whenever you score a touchdown or hit a home run or bring home a super honor roll report card or something like that, or you I don't know, beat a level in a video game or whatever like that. To see your father show a great amount of pride in your success, I can't tell you how much of an empowering feeling that is coming from a man. At least as far as I can tell. I'm not a very religious person, but even if you look at the scripture, right, where Jesus gets baptized by John in the River Jordan, when he emerges out of the water, he hears the voice of God in heaven say to him, "This is my son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased." God could have said anything in that moment, but he found that it was very important to say to Jesus at that time, "I'm your dad, and I am proud of you." Like, come on, man. That's so much power right there. Like, imagine how you got your chest up and your shoulders straight and your posture is just looking good just because your dad is proud of you. And like to be absent of that because you don't have a dad in the house, it's got to be very discouraging not having that as you grow up. A part of me doing this podcast, I wanted it to be largely based around doing interviews with people just because, I feel like you get more done when you have dialogue. But, not going to be able to get an interview every week. But, I've gotten 2 great interviews since the inception of this show. And I got another one for y'all this episode, another great interview to discuss this topic further. And in regards to fatherlessness and its effect on children, I reached out to the person I feel like could be the best person to talk to about this particular topic. So now I'd like to welcome on to Mind On Matters, my stepson, Sean Lyles. Young Prince, soon to be king. How are you?
I'm good.
How's your mind been? How's your body been? How's your spirit been? I ask you that all the time.
They all been good.
So this particular episode that I recorded today was about fatherless homes, absent fathers, and its adverse effect on development of children. What do you know about not having a 2-parent home and its effect on kids? Do you see an example of that at school? Like, you ever notice some kids who may not have a dad at home being a little bit more misbehaved than other kids?
Yeah, some are more misbehaved and others just are more calm. Majority of them are more rebellious stuff.
And how do you know they don't have a father at home? Do they tell you, or?
Sometimes it just comes up randomly.
Do you ever get an impression like some kid may say, my dad's not around, but you get a feeling about how they actually feel about it, whether or not they're hurting or whether or not they're angry, anything like that?
I can usually tell by their facial expressions when they talk about it.
And what's usually the facial expressions?
They look kind of sad about the situation.
You always had two parents in the house for the majority of your life. I've been around since you was 2 or 3 years old. Do you remember when we first met?
Not that much.
Do you remember your first memories of interacting with Justin?
I remember sitting on a bed or standing on it and you talking.
It must have been important then, because everything I say is important. But I really can't remember any awkwardness in me coming into you and your mother's life, really, as I think about it. It seemed like a real seamless transition. I think I got to give you the majority of the credit. From the first time I met you, you was wrestling with yourself in diapers on the bed. And I was a little hesitant to jump in to see whether or not this is my place or not like that. But you was so inviting, so friendly, so positive. You never looked at me weird, like, who is this guy? Or anything like that in your personality. Do you think there was ever any awkwardness between us? Or did you ever look at me in an awkward way, like, you're not my dad and this is kind of weird, this whole situation?
No. I don't remember having any awkwardness between us when you first came.
We had spent some time developing a relationship, but we wasn't living in the same house for a couple of years. You remember the first time? Well, not first time. You remember when I moved in with you and your mother? And what that conversation was like? Did your mother talk to you about it?
I don't think she talked to me about it. I think she just told me about it.
Were you old enough to remember your reaction to that?
I think I was happy.
Why were you happy?
Because I get to spend more time with you.
Because I'm fun.
Yes.
That's right. And I had video games.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it was about.
And the iPad.
And I had an iPad that sadly met its demise shortly after I moved in. Discipline was something that wasn't going to come easy to me, especially because it's you know what? The way I was raised, I used to get the hands-on treatment. So if I did something wrong, I used to get a spanking or, a whooping via hand, via belt, via whatever blunt object was around at the time. But I knew that me putting my hands on another man's child could get a little crazy. So disciplining you early on was a little bit of a struggle. Luckily, you wasn't a super bad kid. You may have tried some mischievous sneaking video games, sneaking snacks in your room and stuff like that, but it was never nothing crazy for the most part. How do you think I did as far as disciplining you without trying to go overboard? Was it effective? Was it something I could have improved on? Was it good? What?
I think it was good because I kind of learned from it. And I don't think it was ever I felt like it was bad or something I should tell about in a bad way.
So after we had lived together for a while, obviously it started to become clear to you where the hierarchy was in the house. You got your mother, then you got me, and then it's you. And it wasn't just going to be you and your mother anymore. But during that time, I was trying to be conscious for a reason that if ever we was outside and somebody had asked you, what's our relationship? I always used to tell you to tell them that I'm your stepfather and not your biological father. You remember when I told you that?
Yes.
But I'm curious, do you understand the reason why I told you to say that?
I don't specifically know the reason, but I know it's a good reason.
Yeah, so the reason I had, whether it was correct or not, was I wanted to make sure that you always knew that you had two men in your life. Whether or not you always wanted to leave that door open to build a relationship or leave the door open for your father to come back and start building a relationship with you. I didn't ever want you to ever get confused later on. Well, I look at him like he's my father and I've been referred to him as my father. Now I got to call two guys dad. I used to see that on TV sometimes. I used to hate that. So I said, you know what? whenever you introduce me at school or a stranger, something like that, always say stepdad and not dad. You understand that?
I do.
All right. So as far as you and our relationship is concerned, one thing I always felt bad about was the fact that when I first knew in my heart that I loved you, I never said it a lot. And that might have been some stuff going on with me. But I think when's the first time you remember me saying, Sean, I love you? It had to be probably like recently, not too long ago, right?
Yeah.
How long ago was that, you think? Within the last year or two, right?
Yeah.
All right. So even though I never said it, did you feel that I loved you, though?
I did.
In what ways did you feel that feeling like, oh, yeah, this guy loves me? For sure.
Well, you're always conscious about the things you do, and you try not to be hurtful. You try to be understanding.
Yeah, that's one way somebody would show love. Also, sacrifice, understanding, like you said, being able to compromise, dedicating your time, showing affection whenever it's, the right time to do so. But yeah, I love you to death. And I always view you like you're my son. When I talk to other people, I say, well, Sean, that's my son. And I take great pride in being able to say that. But as far as you and your father is concerned, your biological father, I should say, obviously y'all had a very strange but not too unfamiliar, especially with black kids, where your father will be what I call a deadbeat daddy. I never came to you and talked bad about him, did I?
No.
I always was conscious of that. And I never wanted to down him in any kind of way that would give me points or make an impression on you that makes me shine brighter. I just wanted my actions to speak for itself. But in regards to his absence or him not being involved in your life as much as he should be, are you aware of how it makes you feel? Do you think about it? Do you dwell on it? What's your feelings about it?
I don't have any negative feelings about it. I try not to let negative feelings affect me that much. And when I do see him and stuff, he always is very fun to be around, and he's still really caring about it.
Do you have any feelings about the amount of effort that he puts in to try to see you?
I think we could be around each other more, but I understand that he can be busy sometimes, and think that he tries his best to see me.
So, do you think the fact that you don't have any negative feelings toward him or you guys' situation is somewhat in part because you didn't have to grow up without a father figure in your house? Do you think you would be more upset if it was just you and your mother throughout these 12 years?
I don't think I would.
Why not?
I feel like I've been around a lot of people, and I see different perspectives of the situation, and I can understand it more.
Was there ever a situation where you felt like I'd rather have my biological father here versus Jay?
I don't think so, or I might have, but I can't really think of one at the time.
Well, that's you thinking in the past. Do you feel now like it would be more ideal if you had him around instead of me? And why?
No, I don't feel that way, because it's like I know you more, so in most situations I think about you more.
I think you got a lot of things that you're going to accomplish going forward in your life, outside of the graduations in the future and scholarships here and scholarships there and invited to camps here, proms and all this other type of stuff that is very exciting stuff, especially as you go through your teenage years. But usually kids, when they are not with their biological parent, they start to build resentment, usually in them teenage years. Hormones start changing. Your whole thought process about life changes. You start adopting more responsibilities and you start seeing how the world works. And you kind of look at your parent like, life ain't that tough. Like, what's so hard about coming to see me more often or stuff like that? Do you think as you get older, your feelings might change, or you think you're too young to quite think that far ahead?
I think they could possibly change, but I don't really see it happening.
How do you feel about the whole situation with your mother having to raise you by herself the first couple of years of your life? It must have been pretty tough, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen your mother be frustrated with the situation with you and your biological father?
No, I don't think so.
So, I don't think we ever had any rocky spots in our relationship. But if it had to be any situation that was the rockiest, it's probably now. You're starting to get your own opinion about things, feeling a certain type of way about how things should be in order. Puberty's coming quickly, as somebody who could look at your face tell off the rip due to the acne that pops up and things of that nature. We got a good relationship, though. But usually, even with biological parents and kids, just around them teenage years, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, things get crazy. I don't know if you might have seen it on TV. I always joke with you, like when we see the Marvel movies with Groot, when he was like in his teenage years on the video game, kind of like being a butthole, right? Mm-hmm. And I used to call you something like that, right? Like, oh, there go Groot again, or whatever like that. Do you think our relationship will always be solid, or you think we're going to have some challenges going forward that we may not be able to get past?
I think it'll always be the same.
And why?
Because I feel like we get along well together, and there really hasn't been any bad points in our relationship at all.
So with all that being said, do you always feel like our home, wherever we made a home at, was always stable? And did it ever feel unstable at any time, in your opinion?
I don't feel like it was ever unstable. It's always been stable.
I tell people, and when me and your mother talk, when we had our rocky moments, I think we actually broke up maybe like once or twice, if you could call it breaking up, living in the same house, but whatever. But I always said that me and your mother personalities sometimes could clash, but where we don't clash at, we're really, really good. And when it got bad, though, and people start talking crazy, breakups happen, you kind of want to get away from the person and things of that nature. But I always said to myself, I don't think I would ever leave Alicia, and the reason would be you. Our relationship had got so solid that I was like, I can never see myself breaking up with Alicia if it was going to cost me not being in Sean's life. You get what I mean? So it's sort of like, I didn't want to ever be in a situation where you had to be dropped off at my house so we can hang out, and then now it's affecting your mother going out and dating a new guy because you got to learn some other guy. And I ain't ever want to think about you getting close to some other dude, like on some father figure type thing or whatever like that. How you feel about that?
I feel like I wouldn't want you two to break up just because of the fact of the relationship me and you built. And then it can affect both you guys, and then it'll probably affect me.
You know that we're never going to break up, right? Like, once we got married, that's a wrap. Ain't no breaking up. It's only death.
Yeah.
Me and your mother will never, ever get a divorce. Probably under any circumstances. So you ain't got to worry about that. One of the things I'm really self-conscious about is making sure I prepare you the best I can for life when you got to, fly out the nest and be an independent human being out here. So I'm constantly always thinking about your preparedness and whether or not I'm doing everything I can do. You're a kid. Obviously, your attention span is going to be very volatile. It's going to go from here to there. Sometimes I'll be feeling like you hear stuff and it may go in one ear and out the other ear, but you're a very smart kid, so I'm pretty sure you're picking up on all the information. And I go out of my way to try to teach you life lessons a lot. Does it stick with you in your brain? And if so, what's some of the things that I always preach that you'll take with you as you grow up?
The one thing I remember the most is the life lesson you gave me about integrity. You said it doesn't matter what you do in front of people. It matters what you do behind people. Right.
And you know why that's important, right? Because at some point in your life, somebody's going to rely on you for something that may be like life or death or life altering. And they got to know that they can count on you to do the right thing, even when nobody else is looking. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
And also, unless you become a boss straight out the gate, which I hope so, you're going to have to work for somebody at some point in your life. And when they hire you, they're thinking that you're going to do the job that you signed up to do. And that goes a long way as far as your reputation is concerned when you go to the next gig or you're trying to open up your own business. You get what I mean? So it's good to hear that you don't tune me out on everything. But what do you tune me out on, I wonder? Go ahead, be honest.
I don't think I tune you out. I think sometimes I just forget stuff.
You are very forgetful. That is for sure. You know what qualities I love about you the most is you're intelligent, but you have a uniqueness in your intelligence. Like you think about things through its process. You have a way of thinking about cause and effect in a way where when you problem solve or you're thinking about something that might have a bigger meaning, you just don't leave it. Like you still think about what does that mean and what does that mean for me and the people I care about. I love that quality because I feel like I also possess it. Do you think I rubbed off on you in regards to your personality anyway? Do you ever talk to other kids or socialize at school and think to yourself, yeah, I might have picked that up from Jay?
I think some things that I say or the way I talk sometimes.
Like you got a line you hit people with?
No, I think it's like general.
Like what? Give me an example.
Like if you didn't rub off on me in like a certain situation, I would be probably more like not thinking certain situations through as much as if you didn't rub off on me.
I got you.
How did you first adapt to being a father?
I mean, scary as hell. I mean, I was at a time in my life where I was doing a lot of dating around and I didn't want to commit to anybody. So me dating your mother was kind of a thing where I didn't really think about that in the long term in the beginning. But I had to change my attitude real quick once I started getting feelings for her, and then I met you, and then I start falling in love with her and loving you as well. So I would say it was quick. I took it very, very personally, our relationship. I think you know that. So I think I adapted well to it, but it wasn't without its stress of kind of like being paranoid, like whether or not I'm doing enough. I still think about that. Like, am I doing enough to make sure he's ready? Am I raising the man that I want him to be? So stuff like that.
What do you think were the best moments in our relationship? Like a certain time we were outside or something like that.
Well, I'll say first, I think our best moments are ahead of us. But the best moments, and I guess if it's in the past, is memories, right?
Yeah.
So I guess our best memories, or my best memories of us, was, I think you probably know this though, when we went to Hershey Park and you were scared to go underneath this waterfall thing that was, or it was a bucket that dumped water on everybody, right? Mm-hmm. And then all the kids was going in, and you was acting very, very scared and shy of meeting H2O. So me and your mother kind of hugged around you and like built a little fort around you since you were so small. And then we let the water come down on us, and you caught a little bit of the trickle of the water too. But your reaction was like, I did it. And I was kind of like, you ain't even catch that much water. But we had to show excitement too, because we was proud that you broke through and showed some courage too, or whatever like that. And then it was like, all right, go do it by yourself. And he was like, nah, I'm good. We can leave now. I'm good. So that's my fondest memory that makes me smile when I think about it.
What do you think would be the state of our family in like the next 5 or 10 years?
Oh, man. If I had it my way, you would be all ready to go to college. I like having you around, so I hope it's in state. But if it's somewhere else and it's a good institution, I'm good with that too. But I think our family would, if I had my way, look like you having a brother or a sister that came from me. And I hope that all the great things that you bring to the table will rub off on how we raise our new baby. I will hope that you won't be jealous of a new baby, because you've been the only child, at least in our house, is concerned. So I hope that it wouldn't be any jealousy there, but I doubt it. And I hope to be in a very happy, healthy, financially rich household with all 3 of us. Well, 4 of us. And I want a dog. Maybe 2 dogs. And if I really like 2 dogs, I'm going to want a whole bunch of dogs. However, I am the husband in this marriage. So me getting what I want is like very rarely ever going to happen. When you're a husband, you get like bits and pieces of what you want. Your mother talking crazy like she want to have multiple kids. I'm like, listen, man, let me find out if I can handle 1 first before we start talking about 2s and 3s. She want twins. I'm like, I don't even know if I can handle 1. You want to have 2 at the same time? I only got 2 hands. But hopefully our family will be adding new members, new dogs, new houses, and new money. That's all I want. But it's been a pleasure having you on the show, my boy. I don't think it's going to be the last time that you'll be on the show. I'm getting some feedback from the people who listen to the show to see whether or not we're going to have you on every week to talk about the topic that I talk about on the episode right quick. How you feel about that?
Think that's a good idea.
I think it's a good idea too. We'll see what the people think though. But all right, go wash the dishes. Appreciate you. So I wanted to close out the show with just saying that despite everything I said as far as, you know, the crisis going on in America in regards to absent fathers or fatherless homes, I do understand that there's a bright side. From all my observations, just looking at the network of friends I have, you know, social media, through work, people I met in my personal life, things of that nature, dads is out here killing it, man. I don't know if y'all see the same thing, but I'm starting to see some real super dad stuff happening outside. And it warms my heart to see it. What I think is happening is people who are in my generation are starting to learn from the previous generation how important it is to have that 2-parent family, the importance of getting married if you're going to have kids, and the importance of, you know, being a teammate with the mother in order to raise a child nowadays, because there's so many outside factors that play into parenting now with, you know, the YouTube and the social media, and it really takes a team effort. And I love to see what I'm seeing, man. I love seeing daddies pushing strollers, changing diapers, all of it. So I got to give a shout out to the fathers I know Jazz Wonder, New, Ray, my man George Harris, Mo, Rich Frazier, Dre, Kev, Daquan, Ant, my dude Edwin, who's a soon-to-be father, him and his beautiful wife, expecting a child shortly. But you guys is killing it out there, man. So you guys are setting an example. Y'all setting a template for me to follow that I got to live up to. So I'm looking forward to the challenge. I'm taking it personally so I can hold the title as #1 dad one day. But all right, y'all, that's it for today's episode. I'll catch y'all next time. Remember, Mind On Matters on Instagram. If you got any questions, got any comments, got any concerns, or any show suggestions, please hit up Mind On Matters on Instagram. Hit my inbox. Let me know what's going on. Any feedback is greatly appreciated. Please share the episode with your friends, family, coworkers, colleagues, strangers, smart animals. Doesn't matter. And also, disclaimer, if you're listening to my show and while you're driving or while you're at work, please be careful. Make sure you're being safe out here. And if you're listening to this in the house, make sure you bring wine next time. I'll check y'all.